Hey everyone, welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday. Today we're taking a look at a brand new one. I've had this guy maybe about a week or so. This is a TS289, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title and all that sort of stuff. This guy looks pretty crazy. It's straight up a lockback. It has a little bit of a extra sort of thing to make the unlocking a little bit different, but it functions exactly the same as your Spyderco Endura or your Buck 110s or anything like that. Yes, all sorts of titanium construction. We got their flat call-out pivot collars. It is what it is. Open this guy up, and we can see it's maybe doesn't look quite the same on camera as it does in person, but there is a little bit of a recurve kind of going on down here. It is purposeful. It wasn't that they ground this one a little bit too much. Just between the one that I got and the pictures that they have online and everything for it. Nowhere near as extreme, but it did kind of remind me a little bit of this guy here. This is the TS388, also a Wong design. Obviously, much more of a exaggerated kukri, but yeah, I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of it just a little bit here. So this is a full size knife. We got a 3.57-inch blade. It's of course D2 because that's about the only thing that they are currently doing. They are slowly branching out, doing N690, possibly 154 cm, and thinking of returning to doing a little bit more S90V. But we'll see what happens with that in the future there. Yeah, we got a handle thickness of, let's see, about 0.54 of an inch or 13.7 millimeters, so a bit thicker than a Spyderco paramilitary too, but not by a whole lot. Ergonomically, I do like this thing quite a bit. It does curve up a bit here, but, even with my larger hands, this ends up sitting nicely in there, nice and comfortable. Kind of wish that I had a little bit of jimping up here. I also kind of wish that the blade and the back spring were anywhere near flush, but that's just not the case. But that is one thing that I will talk a bit about later. But yeah, pretty comfortable. You can choke up a bit. The sharpening choil and everything on it. It's not too bad. You can see that I did, even though I tried pretty darn hard not to, starting to make a smile there, and that's the gradual plunge grind rather than something that's just quite a bit more sharp. Aesthetics aside, I really would prefer just having a straight plunge grind for a lot of that, just for actual knife aesthetics and not hurting any sharpening stones that somebody might be taking this to over the life of the knife. But yeah. It is what it is, and a whole bunch of companies, including TwoSun, end up doing that. I think QSP might be the worst of it, but I don't know. That's maybe I don't know. That's just what I've seen from a lot of their knives. Let's put it that way. So yes, we have a nice and long blade here, 3.8 millimeter blade stock thickness on there. Fairly normal for TwoSun standards there. A little bit thicker than a lot of other companies do, but yeah, this thing definitely feels like a tank. In more ways than one. This thing is over 6 ounces. It's an enormous amount of titanium that hasn't really had any additional weight relieving done to it. So this is a weighty knife. At least it does have a pocket clip on there. The pocket clip ends up working out great. It's got some flexibility to it. And it does have a bit of a ramp here. The locking mechanism, as we can see here, kind of exposed. We can see this little thing here. We push up on that. That essentially pushes down back there. And that is the back spring of it. There we go. Now that it's closed, I can get a little bit of a shot on the pocket clip there. So yeah, not a single point. It does have a decent ramp to it. Goes in and out of the pockets all right. But of course, this being summer, I am actually recording this on Labor Day. Way too heavy to wear in anything that you probably have unless you have some sort of suspension mechanism, whether that's, I don't know, suspenders if you're really, really old, or, a belt or something like that, then, yeah, this thing will probably drop your pants faster than, I don't know, insert your own kind of, simile in there. But yeah, after talking about a little bit of that stuff, this thing had some fit and finish issues, and a little bit more of that will certainly come into play during the disassembly part of the video there, as I can kind of point out some of that stuff. But yeah, about the only thing you can technically tell from the outside is that the back spring and the blade are nowhere near flush. It's all right to have something that's maybe not absolutely perfect, but this does feel like much more of a ledge rather than a little bit of intolerance there, which it's a little unfortunate. Yeah, we could probably see just a little bit of what looks to be kind of chewed up titanium there at the top there. That's nothing that I ended up doing, but yeah, there we go. Like I said, ergonomically, this thing is quite nice and comfortable, even for my quite large hands. Wong does a pretty good job of that. So yeah, using it in the saber grip is pretty good. The gorilla grip also super nice. Pinch grip, because of this here, absolutely sucks, and that's unfortunate because I really, really appreciate a pinch grip, especially if you're cutting something down without using the tip, onto a surface. Like if you're doing a rope cutting test or something like that, this thing absolutely in the way all the time. So that's a little unfortunate, but you know, it is kind of what it is. I suppose you could take that off and then just attempt to use that, but yeah, you don't really have the leverage for it. So yeah, but the handle's nice and nicely done in their standard bead blast sort of stuff going on here. The blade was pretty darn good. This did take quite a bit of effort to be able to sharpen. It is interesting that they're kicking around the idea of doing a couple of them in K110, which I suppose for just having something a little bit different, as far as their models go, I can kind of understand that. But their D2 seems to be a little bit above and beyond what a lot of other Chinese manufacturers are doing. So I don't necessarily know that it's absolutely required for them to do that. But hey, it's got different numbers and letters, and that makes people excited because they don't see D2, which was, the World War II style. So yeah, this thing's action now, pretty good. When I first got it, pretty abysmal. And that had to do with some of the fit and finish stuff on the inside there, and also just kind of how washers end up working out as opposed to bearings. Which, yeah, as I did mention there, this does use those bronze washers there. What I have noticed, pretty much any company that ends up doing them, the washers are made by doing a little slice there, but they'll do the slice off of the tube or bar of material, and then they'll polish that side that falls off. The other side, of course, still has a burr and maybe a little funky from that cut. And that's something that does kind of annoy me a little bit, because it really shouldn't take any amount of time, really, to be able to finish a washer on both sides, but that's virtually unheard of in the whole knife industry. I don't know, maybe something like Shirogorov and Chris Reeve or something like that might do that in the, $600 to $1,100 range sort of thing, might do, but pretty much any other company, they don't bother with it. It's something really easy to deal with, and I did it on this one too, as I've done on plenty in the past, but just something that I figured I would bring up a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, overall, ergonomically, I really like this thing. Blade shape ends up working out pretty darn well. I really don't think that this fancy locking mechanism sort of thing was probably needed to be there, and it does complicate the construction of this quite a bit. When I first saw it from the photos online and stuff like that, I thought this was going to be kind of their take on a scorpion style lock, and pretty much not. This is just kind of a lever to actuate the back lock on the back there. But that being the case, you've probably seen, this thing can't be nice and flush. It does have a bronze washer on its own here on the back. But because of that, even though this is fully tightened and everything like that, it still wiggles a little bit. Less so technically when it's closed, but it'll still move a bit on you. That, and I'm actually surprised that there isn't a lanyard loop or pin or something like that on here. I don't particularly care one way or the other. I'm just surprised that it isn't actually there. Something that, I don't know, maybe could have been done on the back spacer back here, since there technically is still one. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, with that being said, I don't really think there's a whole lot else to cover on the outside. Thing cuts well. Like I said earlier, the heat treat on the steel is pretty darn good as well. But there's just a lot of interesting choices I think I would go with with regards to this guy. But with all that being said, though, how about if we do some blade size comparisons, since I didn't do that earlier. So there we go. There's the Manix 2XL, all sorts of big and everything. But that does give you an idea of the length of the blade there. Here we are with the Spyderco PM2, which is fairly similar as far as the ratios and all that sort of stuff goes. Oops. Here we are with the Endura. I do have a new one of those. It is quite a bit different from these ones that I'm used to, but that's for another time there. Here we are with the 940. Kind of similar, but still definitely feels like a much larger knife than that 940 does. There we go. There's a Griptilian. Sure, why not the bug out? Because everybody and their mama probably has one, or thinks they're too expensive, which they're probably not wrong in, and doesn't have one. There we are with the Brat number 1. Kind of technically rest in peace, Ontario Knife Company. It seems like they didn't go out of business, but were purchased. So I'm not sure exactly how things will go later on, but hopefully things continue on, because definitely like Condor and stuff like that needs some more competition in that kind of market space. But yeah, and here we are with the Elementum. Of course, this is the Desert Warrior pattern, so that's why it looks all donutty and fruity and everything. But alrighty, there we go with that. With that, though, I don't have a huge amount else to say. Oh, it is kind of interesting. A lot of lockbacks end up doing this. This looks very uncentered, but you can easily center it. It's another one of those funky things that can happen with some washer type construction. But yes, there we go. Let's go ahead and delve a little bit into this guy here. First thing I want to do is take this little guy off. There's that washer that I had mentioned there. And yeah, nothing really else to see from there, but definitely keep those guys there. I can take the pivot screw out. And I should probably take that screw out here. The pocket clip on the back, you can see I can move it, but it takes a lot of effort to do. That's because this Chicago screw that's going through there and holding that pocket clip, on is actually bearing the load of that back spring. So, yeah, there's the reason beyond that. And then here's that little extended piece. This is definitely not a standard piece that that they end up using in a lot of their other knives. But now that we are here, let's see, I can probably grab a little bit of my spudger. There we go. There's the top off of it. And we can see we don't really have bearing races here at all. Which don't necessarily know that I like that all that much. It would have been nice to just have some flat steel inserts or something like that. But we can see here there's a lot of kind of funkiness in the finish going on here. And yeah, that's because it's rubbing up on that titanium here. And a couple of these holes, specifically this one, you can see some scratches and stuff like that here. I ended up having to try to drill that out because there were burrs and stuff like that on there. They didn't go back and fix that up decently, and it was enough that I needed to use some diamond abrasives, some bead reamers. Let's see, yeah, some of these guys here to be able to take care of it rather than just a little ceramic stone or something like that I usually do. But yeah, let's see, and then. I can essentially easily do that. So, yeah, there we go. There's the blade with the tang. There's the little hammer, I believe it's called, that goes into the blade for the whole locking process. Of course, taking that off gets the tension, so that pivot thing is there. It does have a little D-shaped notch. However, it is on the show side on this one in particular. That actually adds a little bit of challenge when trying to put this thing together and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a little back spring, and then of course we got this guy here that actually has a little lock bar thing as well as the back spacer. So yeah, there we go. And then of course this other side here, I also, yeah, you can see a whole bunch of scratches there as I tried to get rid of the burr there to try to improve some action on it. And then, of course, once that's done, you actually don't have the tension there, so you can deal with the pocket clip. So very, very different construction and or taken or disassembly sort of order that you have to do on this compared to most other TwoSun knives there. But we also have that secondary point there. Like I said, kind of surprised that they didn't have one of those possibly up a little bit further for a lanyard thing, but also, like I said, doesn't particularly bother me all that much, but for the people who really do appreciate it, then, yeah, there you go. So this thing does have kind of the fun issues of trying to put it back together, kind of like you would run into on some other slip joint knives and stuff like that. It's not absolutely terrible though, and at least these are easier to put back together than your standard slip joints. Make sure that notch is facing down because that's where that's supposed to face. And of course, at that point, this will sit on there. But easy enough. Oh, failure on my part. All right, let's do this again, huh? Alright, gotta keep my finger on it from the other side. I cut myself there. Alright. Yeah, this thing's gonna be a pain in the butt to deal with here. Yeah, I got myself on the other side there, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut here so I don't bleed all over the camera. I'll be back in a moment. Alrighty, round two. I actually had to use a bandage because it just wouldn't stop bleeding after putting some pressure on it. Usually I like to let it just stop bleeding a little bit, throw on a little bit of liquid bandage or something like that, and ends up working out great. However, that's not exactly what's gonna happen right now, because I was getting impatient that this thing wasn't stopping bleeding. Alrighty, so yeah, my pocket clip is still technically in there, so shove that Chicago screw back in there. Get that all up in place. And that over there. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Alright, I should do this probably a little bit smarter than what I was doing. Oh my god. Drive me crazy. Everything has a lot of lubrication on it because, well, as you can see, it rubs all sorts of places. So, not exactly the smoothest experience right out the box. But, alrighty. So, there we are with that. Get my lock bar sort of thing down. And move it up. Get you in there. And faced correctly. And then with that pocket clip, it actually makes it difficult to try to do it down on the ground, which is probably still what I ended up should have been doing anyway. So, yeah, there we go there. While that's up and not in place, I will put that in there. Alright. Hooray. So, that's all in place and everything. And then this is the kind of annoying thing of trying to get absolutely all of this completely lined up the way that it should be, which is not a given that it just snaps all into place, because there's still tension to be had on all of this stuff here. Alright, so that's in there, but it's not in the pin area, which, there we go, now it's in both of those, and it makes sense, but then you actually have to lift up to be able to get it onto there, but looks like I was successful. Alright, so while that's in there, I can go ahead and tighten that down. Maybe not absolutely balls to the wall crazy tight. And there we go. I'm also missing that pin there. This is the fun chase of trying to put back together some slip joints and back spacers. And something that I need to, I think, probably go above where I was before. Yeah, make sure it's grabbing both of those. I fought with this also the same sort of way when I was dealing with it before. And you know what? I'm not going to bother y'all with trying to do this. I'll just cut. That took way too much time, but I ended up getting frustrated because I couldn't clamp it in the way that I did before. I ended up just using my pliers to do that. Sure, it was titanium on steel. Probably should have used a chamois or something like that, but hey, it's at least in place and all of that sort of stuff, so I can tighten that back down to where it needs to be. That as well, which was that. And have that out there. So hey, it's at least back to where it was, and I can do all of that sort of stuff. Still looks crazy off center, but yeah, just touching it ends up putting it pretty close near center anyway. However, we can see in here something that I didn't see before. We can see it right there. Yeah, this guy does. Yep. This has a problem with blade wrap. Yay. Something that most other companies really don't have any problems with. But, yep. Yeah, you can see that, that right there is definitely a roll just from hitting that. So, yeah. Overall, my thoughts on this, you might want to get it if you have very specific interest in this particular knife, but it's got all sorts of problems. This is not TwoSun's best work by a long shot. Just the amount of problems, fit and finish that I've had with it, the fact that this has blade wrap on it, the fact that it's a little bit more difficult to actually end up putting back together, and it's just an overly complicated backlock, which I suppose I've seen on Instagram, Wong himself specifically kind of pushing up on that to swing the blade out there. But yeah, mine certainly doesn't have any amount of ability to do that, at least within what I would consider to be reasonable force. So yeah, for all intents and purposes, I would say screw this knife. It's in my collection, and I'm way too lazy, pretty much, to sell any of them. But not fond of it. There's some things that are okay about it, but way too many flaws. I'll try and remember to bleep that sound there, but I don't know. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's not that I was frustrated that I got myself cut. It's mostly just all the problems that this ended up having. I mean, being cut, that was my own fault, so I don't really fault a knife for that, especially when it's in states of disassembly, where most companies don't really expect you to do that, especially not for something that actually has spring tensions and stuff like that put on there. They assemble those sorts of things in a jig that already have the tensions in there so that they can place pieces on there. But we don't have jigs, so putting them back together a little bit different. But yeah, this thing's got way too many flaws. It's incredibly heavy, and it's just an overly complicated backlock with some blade wrap. So yeah, unless it's something that absolutely fascinates you, pass up on it. But alrighty, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe. Peace.